Hello, welcome to Online Seller UK podcast. And now, actually, we've changed this to Marketplace Roundup podcast. This is something we're starting today, and we'll be continuing with this sort of marketplace podcast for a couple of months, perhaps. So the idea is to share different news that's coming up in the e-commerce industry and Amazon specific, and we'll try to bring up eBay as well and any other e-commerce topic as we go along. Today I've got Rael from Nozzle AI, and Nozzle is a Amazon tool provider which understands the customer data and share those data with businesses to increase their sales. So welcome to our podcast, Rael.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Excellent. So, Rael, so you were talking, briefly about some of the news articles you've read through Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg and so on. So, yeah, hit us with news.
Sure. Absolutely. Happy to start. So, a couple of things more kind of bigger picture, I guess. The one I'd like to start off with was some sellers, primarily based in the US, received emails around a website set up by Amazon called supportsmallsellers.us. Around the impending proposed legislation changes in the US. And so I thought I'd just actually quote one line. It's basically a sign-up page for sellers to receive more information from Amazon about this whole process and how it might affect them. But Amazon's not mincing their words here on this website. So I'll just read out one paragraph that kind of captures it all. While it is early in the legislative process, if enacted, these bills would jeopardize Amazon's ability to operate a marketplace for sellers, potentially resulting in hundreds of thousands of American small and medium-sized businesses losing access to Amazon's customers and services. So Amazon's certainly trying very hard to raise the alarm bells amongst the seller community and what these may mean and lobby for, you could argue lobby for sellers' interests or Amazon's interests or both, I don't know, but Amazon's certainly stepping up their fight against the legislation there.
Okay, excellent. So is there something that smaller business should be happy about, should be concerned about? What's your thought on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of separate the, what's real, what isn't. And the legislative process, a lot of it is, there's lawmaking, what's realistic. There's a lot of it, it's mostly politics, I guess, as well. And it's very polarized there at this point as well. So there's a lot of eyes on sort of the big tech. A lot of politicians kind of want to clamp down on all of that. And it's very hard to see how this actually goes. I mean, some people in the Amazon seller community have predicted the end of the third-party marketplace as some sort of doomsday scenario. Others will say it's not going to be the end, but it's going to kind of be the end of an era of it. And Amazon's actually going to tighten up on a lot of the restrictions. So whilst I guess the idea of the legislation is almost to do the opposite. So it's very, very hard to predict these sort of things. And I think sellers need to be aware of what's going on there and actually keep up to date, not from just Amazon sources, of course, but others as well. I'm certainly not going to stick my neck out and predict things. But I do know that, there could be certainly material changes to the way the marketplace is run.
Yeah, interesting. I've been reading, well, it may not be an exact fact, but reading things like, Amazon obviously gone really big and it's a huge enterprise. Obviously, everybody knows that. And should it be split into maybe two different kind of businesses and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a very mixed record, let's say, in trying to break up big tech from sort of a legislative process. So, but as I say, as a seller, you have to be keeping your eye on this sort of stuff and thinking about join masterminds, join seller groups where people are talking about it, find out how to, try and mitigate some of the bigger risks from this process.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So next one, Red.
Yes, sure. Another kind of bigger story where Amazon last week bought a podcast, and I'll tie this into why this might be relevant to sellers, called Smartless for, I think it was about $20 million. Now, Amazon's been buying quite a lot of podcasts and building up their podcast base. They bought another one called Wondery for $300 million in December last year. Why this is relevant is they're effectively building up a very large podcast network which will be tied to advertising, right, ultimately. So what's really interesting is, most sellers will be very familiar with the PPC universe. That's kind of where you start, and you can scale quite well with that. They've introduced products like the demand-side platform, the DSP, which now goes off and beyond Amazon, more audience targeting based. And this certainly falls within that remit here, where a different format, more sort of advertising podcast. But what's really interesting is you can tie the ROI to it as well, right? Like someone, you advertise on this particular podcast to this particular audience, and it turns out they bought XY product from you. So it's just Amazon's advertising in general has apps. It's the most, it's skyrocketing, right? It's showing the most growth in their business. It's extremely profitable, and they're expanding the advertising business a lot. Amazon in many ways is pay to play, and they're just looking for more ways to take more budget effectively. Already now, when you type in something in the search bar, you pretty much have to scroll down to see the first organic results. So they're pretty much running out of places to show ads, at least in sort of high intent places. And so they're just looking for more ways to add more inventory ultimately. And I think podcasting is going to be quite a big part of how they do that.
Yeah, interesting. Like you said, if like anybody searches it, it's hard to find organic, in the upper hole
exactly
listings now. I think there are other introductions, like is it attributions that's been introduced already? It's in beta stage as well.
Exactly. So that's more about connecting the dots. If you're driving, let's say, a Facebook campaign to your Amazon listing, let's try connect the dots and see how effective that was, etc. Amazon, as a bit of a side point, obviously going really hard at this, right? So they reduced the referral fees up to 10% less for certain categories if you're driving off Amazon traffic to your listing. And so they're trying really hard to go after, I say, Google and Facebook budgets. And that no coincidence that that syncs up with the timing of the iOS changes, right? So at the exact point where people are considering their Facebook budgets because of all the privacy issues going on iOS, Facebook campaigns might not be that effective. And here comes Amazon in saying, okay, we're going to take off up to 10% of the referral fee if you drive it to your Amazon listing and not your D2C. So very interesting to watch that.
Yeah. So do you think like we are seeing Amazon's not for encouraging people to drive external traffic? Do you see that going forward, maybe in a couple of years' time, it will be very difficult to get a decent return on Amazon ads?
The way the CPCs are going, it's becoming increasingly difficult, right? Like most categories have seen a really, really steep increase in CPCs. From our point of view, in the certain categories that we're focused on as a business. So we're talking supplements, we're talking pet products, health and beauty. They're nearly sort of double of what they were kind of last year. I'd say the US has probably shown a steeper increase than Europe or the UK, but nonetheless, there's only one direction that those CPCs are going. And so, this ROI calculation is becoming very, very relevant for sellers and how they distribute their budgets. It used to be much cheaper to acquire customers on Amazon using Amazon tools, but now people are forced to think of more creative ways to do that or other channels to do it. Even if you're still driving the traffic to your Amazon listing, you just got to, is it the keyword strategy that needs to change? You can't go after those super, super high tier one volume terms. You got to pick other ones. And so, everything we're doing as a business, part of our forecasting with our customers is to pretty much assume a doubling of CPCs in 12 months. Like, what does this mean for your business kind of thing?
Yeah, I think, like you said, in a rightly touch base, that's part of the work you already do with a seller. So within the Nozzle tool, so do you sort of forecast? How do you helping with CPC cost?
Yeah, most of it is definitely going to be around scenario analysis. So thinking about two things: what happens if you're going to pay double in 12 months' time for this particular term, and this is a key term for you. And then we also look at, well, if it's just the numbers aren't good, it doesn't work out, we have to think of a different keyword strategy. One of the big differences of what we do is that we tend to work with customers who have a lot of repeat orders for their products. So if that's the case, then it actually frees you up a lot more to spend more to acquire someone, knowing that on average they're buying 3-4 times a year from you. And so that differentiating strategy compared to competitors who are just focused on breaking even on that first purchase really, really differentiates a lot of our customers. So we're very focused on, what is the 6-month profit per customer or the 12-month profit per customer, given all the repeat orders. And then how does that feature into my PPC strategy, for instance? And so those really, really high CPCs, even a doubling of those CPCs, it's obviously not great, but it's more palatable if you're doing it, thinking about it in that way.
Yeah. You're looking at a long-term vision rather than
absolutely
short-term. Yeah. Cool. So let's go with the next news.
Yes, sure. So the next one's more about Black Friday. So this is much more operational type news. But really the deadlines for Black Friday and Cyber Monday are coming through. So October the 8th is the deadline for submission for early Black Friday deals. And this is an interesting one. So in general, one of the questions we always get asked in a more basic sense is like, is it actually worth it? Right? I give all these discounts. How do I measure success with these things? Right? It's I don't know, an increase in organic rankings possibly, but then it kind of reverts back after Black Friday.
Yeah.
But given the nature of our customers, which are focused on repeat orders, ultimately, when someone buys from you on a Black Friday or any sort of big Prime Day or whatever it is, your customers fall in one of three buckets. You can have a new to brand customer. That's generally a good thing. You can have an existing customer that's buying from you on a discount. That's not a good thing because they probably would have bought at full price anyway.
Yeah.
And then there's an interesting third category. The third category are customers who haven't bought from you in a very long time. So let's call it 6 months or 12 months. You've effectively lost them, right? But because of your Black Friday promotion, they've bought from you again. And so you've reactivated them is what we call it. Now, the interesting thing is that if you measure after Black Friday, what happens to all three of these customer types? Your reactivated customers are more than twice as likely to buy again from you after Black Friday than your new to brand customers. So I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but ultimately what we're saying is that for these big events like Prime Day and Black Friday, you're actually better off trying to reactivate old customers to buy again than you are trying to go after new to brand. And because they're twice as likely to buy again from you after Black Friday. So you've got to think about ways on sponsored display or the DSP to try target people who haven't bought from you in a very long time to warm them up to buy from you on Prime Day. Otherwise, or Black Friday, whatever it may be. Otherwise, you're going to be playing a hugely expensive CPC game, on Black Friday or whatever it is, some crazy prices to get new to brand customers, but most of them are after a deal and you don't actually see them again.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know, again, it's quite a big mouthful there, but we've consistently seen this pattern across our entire customer base. So that's really interesting. I still think on average for most people, it will be worth it doing, these big promotions for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. But I think the strategy can change instead of just, going for top of search CPCs, new to brand customers. I think that is becoming increasingly unprofitable.
Yeah, I see this sort of promotion sales like it's a use switch moment, like we've got with energy suppliers. You go onto usage.com,
exactly,
switch it, so they get a better deal and they switch and they perhaps stay with them for maybe a year or so. It's that sort of moment that way you acquire new
exactly.
customers.
I've just switched my energy supplier. I know exactly what that's like.
No, that's good. So I think we've come to the end of the marketplace roundup today. So is there anything else you want to add, Rael?
No, not really. I mean, if anyone wants to ask any additional questions about any of these topics, please reach out to me. Probably LinkedIn would be the best place. Or go to our website, whatever it is. Very happy to talk about any of these issues. We're very customer focused in terms of who are your customers that are buying from you on Amazon and understanding them and the data behind that. So if there are any questions, always happy to chat about that.
Okay, excellent. So thank you again, Rael, for your time. And I think we've booked for another quick roundup again in a couple of weeks' time.
Indeed, I look forward to it. There's never a shortage.
That's it. But all these news, it's really valuable. And sometimes it's not only that you read it and sometimes you forget it, but you bring things up again and we discuss this, and that's the whole idea of this marketplace roundup. So
that's great.
So again, that's really appreciated. Right.
Brilliant, and thank you for having me.
All right, excellent. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.